Sorry, excuse me. Hey, everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so today we're going to do another mini series, and this time it's going to be it's not a mini series. It's going to be an ongoing series, but it's just going to be the first arc of Shaman's Tears, the first four issues. I've got issue number one, number two, number three, and number four. Okay, so Shaman's Tears is a creator-owned comic about a Native American superhero by comics veteran Mike Grell. This one's from 1994 during the height of the Image Comics hype or craze, and we're gonna, like I said, look at the first arc, which is about four issues. So just to back up a little bit, Image Comics started in 1992 by ex superstar artists Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane. Rob Liefeld, and about a half a dozen other really popular artists who, in a quest for more creative freedom and more monetary gains, left Marvel at the height of their popularity and started their own comic book company. So at first, Image started as a shared universe between those various creators and really superhero kind of sci-fi concepts. Things changed and eventually became an attractive hub for a variety of comic book artists and writers over the years, produced a number of critically acclaimed self-contained individual runs. Just to give a little backup info, Mike Grell, he started his career in the early 70s as an artist to Dale Messick on the Brenda Starr newspaper comic strip, and he began work at DC Comics maybe around 73 or so, working on characters like Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, etc. His art style, Grell had become noticed on Green Lantern and Legion of Superheroes in the 70s. It's very influenced by artist Neil Adams. He created a sword and sorcery he created a sword and sorcery title called Warlord for DC that lasted several years. Mike did some work in the burgeoning indie direct market, creating Star Slayer for Pacific Comics, but had a greater success for creator-owned John Sable's freelance for First Comics. Sable eventually became a short-lived TV show on ABC in the late 80s. Grell returned to DC in the mid 80s and did the highly influential Green Arrow Longbow Hunters in 86. 86 or 87. This was one of DC's early prestige format books, coming out soon after Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. Like Dark Knight Returns, Grell took advantage of the high production values to do experimental and striking art, and there he mixed traditional comic book art with pencil sketches, watercolor painted art. He revamped Oliver Queen into a more gritty hero, dumping the trick arrows and bringing a more willingness to kill, and thematically dealing with more grounded foes and violent situations than what was done in previous code-approved comics. The Green Arrow was spun off into an ongoing New Direction series that was one of the pre-runners or prototypes, pre-runners for we'll say pre-runners to the Vertigo line. Mike also did a run as a writer for Iron Man in the early 2000s, where Tony Stark became Secretary of Defense. Interestingly enough. Okay, so the plot concerns a young Native American man, Joshua Brand, who's left the reservation and comes back after many years. He comes back to see his dying mother. He reconnects with his community. He's encouraged to embrace his heritage and go on a vision quest. And somehow this gives him superpowers related to animals and nature and things like strength and flight and whatnot. He also stumbled upon a animal poaching ring that's being done on Indian land. Meanwhile, the government is creating super soldiers with animal powers using technology stolen from the Soviets. And along the way, Joshua reestablishes his relationships with his old girlfriend, the local native community. We see his mentor, who's a smart-ass old man, who kind of guides him on his way. The story touches on themes of revenge, responsibility, somewhat on Native American civil rights, science fiction civil rights, like should the animal man have human rights, or are they property of the government or the corporation that kind of built them? Uh, they don't get that deep, other than the kind of poaching issue. They don't really get that deep into real life political indigenous issues. In the 70s and 80s, there were things about mining rights, fishing rights, casinos,
protests over broken treaties, things like that. There is a kind of interesting take on post-Cold War relationship between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, and I thought the corporate satires is kind of fun. The pacing is a little bit off, at which the story structure was set up a bit better. There's things in the story that kind of seem to happen randomly, and at the end, it all seems a little too neat and pat. But again, for a mainstream superhero comic, not bad. Story's pretty dense, a little bit cluttered. I'd say the dialogue, of course, again, back to old school comic book exposition, but it's not terrible. But there, excuse me, there's a few scenes where people talk like characters in a comic book, where they're explaining things to each other rather than speaking naturally in a way that people might normally talk. So
Okay, so the art is very influenced by Neil Adams. He does a lot of detail in clothes, a lot of details in background. The style is very marked, very well. It's very much about heavy rendering and shadows. The layouts are kind of cramped and really dense. Some of the panels bleed over into each other, but like I said, it's a really great technique, and I like how the colors stand out on some of the higher grade paper. You can really see, like I said, the Neil Adams influence, and sometimes Grell will sometimes draw like Neil Adams himself. He'll draw somebody in a really striking pose, and then sometimes the people will be standing or doing something that looks a bit awkward. But just to show you a little bit of it. Okay, so to show you some of Mike Grell's art here, well, first of all, we've got the old special covers, foil covers, right? 90's, right? Okay. Oh, can't even watch it with the glare here. But yeah, check this design. I really like the design here of the character's little costume. It kind of reminds me though of like 70's Legion of Superheroes when Mike Grell was doing it. Like, I'm not sure who designed it. Was it Mike Grell, Dave Cockrum? I don't know, but there was some period in like the mid 70's, like 75, 76, whatever. Maybe a couple of years beforehand. Here's our hero. This is a cool spread. Indian on a leather jacket. Got my motorcycle. Speaking of the 70's, right? This could have been like his backstory. This could have been like a 70's B movie or something. But anyway, to finish what I was saying about Legion of Superheroes, like there was this period where it was like, half the guys in Legion of Superhero are like wearing costumes that show off their chest. People are walking around in their shorts and whatnot. A couple of women have suits that look like they're bathing suits. But it was the 70's, What are you going to do? All right. So, let's see here. This is interesting. So, here's issue 2, right? But not only does it fold out this way, it really folds out to a giant poster. Okay? Right? I'm not going to disconnect it. But, ooh. But yeah, pretty interesting. But that's them going all out with the special covers and the production and everything. And actually, look at all these colors and stuff. They look really great here. Even whatever, 30 years in, right? The whole thing's really, really stands out. I'm really impressed by all that. Although, again, let's see here. Well, the layouts here aren't. The layouts in this issue aren't too bad. But again, like I said, you got this great rendering and whatnot. It's a pretty cool page. But it's sometimes either pictures look kind of here. Here's one where the panels and everything look kind of cluttered. I mean, it's cool. Sometimes it's cool when they kind of sort of bleed over, whatever. and sometimes it's not. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta kind of look twice to see. Oops. See if you can tell what's going on. Oh, here's a cool double page spread, or an interesting double page spread. Could have been better. Here's what I'm talking about. Where the design here seems to be a little bit more important than the storytelling. So sometimes here, like here's a good example. Sometimes it's like it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But like I said, the rendering is there. You know what I mean? You can't fault the technique. A couple more shots. Let's see here. There was something else I wanted to point out. Oh, I showed you that. There's that. Oh, wasn't there like a wraparound cover for one of these? Oh yeah, here's another. I think it's this one. Here's another cool wraparound cover for issue 3. Right. So okay, all right. So moving along. So Shaman's Tears. It had a pretty interesting premise. There aren't that many indigenous superheroes in the mainstream, and it looks like Grell was doing his best to uh, take that background for the character and make it somewhat respectable. The first arc here, while it's not perfect, does have some entertaining moments. The character has a cool look and very interesting powers. The comic has, as a tangible product, has some good production values. Grell crafts a decent intro story, although with a few cliches. It's well rendered art, few flaws, but I wouldn't mind seeing another attempt made under the right artist. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.